Baton Rouge.
Get your college football fix all year long on the Chuck Oliver Show. The king of college football brings you 2 hours of live and local college football talk throughout the year.
Weeknights from 6 to 8 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Off the Bench with Jacob Hester and T-Bob Hebert. Mornings from 7 to 10 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Odd and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We'll do it live.
Now, here's Jimmy Odd and Charles Annegriff.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sounded a little tall on radio.
Is it live?
Like they're open. All right, welcome in Live at Lunch. Matt Musso filling in along with Max. We're in for Hanny and Ott. Boys are off to Omaha. They're going to go meet the Tigers out there. Keep you locked in coverage. As long as LSU is in Omaha, Hanny and Ott will be in Omaha covering you. We're going to give you some program updates here momentarily. Mario Jerez normally produces the show. He's here. Taylor Sharp, we're on YouTube today as well for a video element. Max, happy to do this, man. We've hung out a couple of times just at, events that we do for the station. We've never hosted a show together. How are you?
I'm enjoying it. Good times right now, right? I mean, what can you complain about with Omaha right on the horizon? We got the 3 M's and Taylor. Sorry, Taylor. Wish you had an M. But, yeah.
You taking a shot?
No.
You can take a shot. I appreciate it.
You're more original than we are, so I think that's more special.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, man, you're right. I mean, Omaha, Saints in minicamp. I mean, the NBA draft is coming up. There's a lot. The SEC schedule, football. We know the SEC football schedule, at least opponents. We'll talk plenty of that today as well. But, again, a lot of baseball. Tigers are in Omaha, so we will cover baseball for a majority of the 2 hours that we will be with you. Some programming notes to pass along courtesy of the Ottfather and Hanny. Max, you're with them every night. You correct me if I get any of this wrong. So we're doing the show right now, obviously. Tonight, Jimmy and Hanny will be back for in the old game time slot, a special 6 to 8 from the Barstool Sportsbook at Amistar Casino and Hotel. That's going to be presented by Roosters Men's Grooming, correct?
Yeah, so at the Ameristar, if you're going down to Omaha, go check them out, 6 to 8, live at lunch at dinner, special time.
Live at lunch at dinner. Also, anyone listening to this is not surprised that Hanny and Ott get off a plane and the first place they go is a casino and a sportsbook. So that's how that's going to go. They're back in this slot, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. from Barrett's Barley Corn. Shout out. It's like the resident LSU bar in Omaha. That's presented by Six Rings Baseball Academy in Covington. Shout out Dan Canaveri. That's what they're doing Friday, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. Friday, 11 to 1, back to normal, but they'll be live at Barrett's Barley Corn.
And then more special programming on Saturday. This is going to be simulcast on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge right here, and on Eagle 98.1. It's an LSU Tennessee pregame show, 3 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. They'll be right outside of Charles Schwab Field. They'll have guests, all of that. They'll count you up to pregame on the LSU Sports Radio Network, much like we do for Eagle 98.1 game day in football. This will be Eagle 98 game day, baseball for game 1 LSU in Omaha. It'll only be for that. Like when they're playing in the week, middle of the week next week, our programming stays the same. So the special pregame show is just for Saturday, and then if they're in the championship series next Saturday, they'll most likely do another one. But LSU Tennessee pregame on Eagle 98.1 and on ESPN Baton Rouge, 3 to 5:30 p.m. with Charles and Jimmy on Saturday.
Go by and see them. I'm sure they're looking forward to seeing plenty of purple and gold up in Omaha.
Absolutely. There will be plenty of purple and gold in Omaha. Jay Johnson told a story yesterday in his media availability after practice about a friend of his who was flying out of Houston up there and said, you're going to be happy because there's a lot of purple already on this plane. So it's funny. You see a lot of teams, fans, they mostly show up maybe a little bit later in the week. LSU fans just go from the beginning, and normally they like to stay for 2 weeks too. So hopefully that's in the cards. If it is in the cards, and this is where we're going to start, it's going to take a lot from Paul Skenes. That's been a question many have asked. How much can LSU get out of Paul Skenes this week in Omaha? Paul Skenes, for what it's worth, who just got another honor today. Paul Skenes, Dick Hauser Trophy Award winner, best player in college baseball. The award goes to that. That's the second time. Paul Skenes was the Collegiate Baseball National Player of the Year. Now the Dick Hauser Trophy. He's still waiting on that Golden Spikes. That's on top of SEC Pitcher of the Year. The accolades just keep rolling in for America's ace, for the best pitcher in college baseball, for the kid who's going to be the first college pitcher taken in the Major League Baseball draft here in about a month's time. You want him on the mound. How much can you get? And I think the answer that many are giving, Max, is 2 for sure. You want to get, if you're there long enough, you want to get 2 for sure out of him. 3 is in the cards, though.
Well, we've seen 3 before in the College World Series. It's a little bit different when you have a top 5 draft pick. You got to be a little bit cognizant of that. Shout out Keith Law. He's very concerned about this stuff. He'll mark you down on his list if you don't. But, we'll see if there's any delays in Omaha. That could certainly impact this as well. You never know. Maybe Saturday, knock on wood, it doesn't happen. But what if he only goes 2 innings and there's a storm and it pauses play? The fact that you get him out there on the first game gives you flexibility to maneuver with what could be of the schedule. It is not set in stone what the schedule is going to be. So you could see him again maybe Thursday, if necessary, game, and then you'd have him again for the final. But maybe you don't need that if necessary game if all goes well, and then you'd have him ready to go for game 1 of the final.
That's the best case scenario, right? I mean, that's what you want. You want LSU to win the first 3 games, really, but get the first 2. You have to be beaten twice. Win the next one, and you have Paul Skenes on full rest, 7 days, ready to go, game 1 of the championship series, and you feel great. I think the interesting thing that really could be thrown in there is a potential, the way to maximize him maybe more than just, okay, you could bring him out in an if-necessary game in the finals. Is there an opportunity to potentially throw him short relief on one of his bullpen days if LSU's playing then? Is that something? And then you have him for one of the first 2 games in a championship scenario if you make it there. But the other important thing is what you mentioned when you mentioned Keith Law, is LSU has been so careful with Paul Skenes all year, and rightfully so. Like that is the correct way. During the regional, when we had the whole should he start against Tulane, and I don't want to drag that conversation up, but when everyone was having that conversation, many said, you can just bring him back if there's an if-necessary game on Monday, or you can bring him. And it's like, no, like, he's going out there to throw. Like, that's his day to throw, and they're not going to use him in a regional. The second time in a regional. The only scenario that I've ever seen where they might, and I say might do it, is what we're describing here if there's a national championship on the line. So, yeah, I think the correct answer to that is you could see him 3, but most likely you're going to see him 2. And I'll say this, too. Because, again, going back to the regional and the game against Tulane, he threw 124, 126 pitches in that complete game or something like that. I saw an article and look, I don't ever try to be a headline reader. I always try to read the article. This time I was a headline reader because the article, it didn't matter. It was relevant, but it didn't matter. It was in the Washington Post, and the headline was something along the lines of, scouts wary after Skenes throws 124 pitches or whatever. It's relevant, obviously, because it's out of the Washington Post, and the team he's been linked with most is the Washington Nationals. I read that headline and didn't need to read the article because it doesn't matter. Because my thing is, okay, you're not going to draft him? Really? He threw 124 pitches. You're not. He's on the board at 2. You're passing on him? No, you're not. So shut up. Like, that's stupid. That's dumb. That's a whole... If he does something like you've seen Quinn Matthews do at Stanford, where he threw 180 pitches in the regional over 2 outings and 156 in 1 outing in the super, 350 pitches in 3 outings over 2 weeks. Okay, then we can have that conversation. But if Paul Skenes is on the board, you're taking him every time. So stop. Like, you're not wary about it. You can act like you are. You're not. That's a tangent that I didn't really intend to go on, but sorry, it happened. Back to the original conversation. 2, maybe 3. I think the bullpen aspect of it could be interesting middle of the week.
Yeah, and this is the territory that comes with having great players, generational players, top 5 draft picks. You have to be a little bit cognizant of their MLB draft stock. That is going to be only accelerated going forward, I would see, with this program. So get used to it. Might as well at this point. Yeah, you'd love to see 3 games, but I think the best case, plan for 2. And if you're LSU's locker room, you're certainly not planning on anything more than one at this point. You got to focus on Tennessee right out of the gates.
That is very true. You know, I was doing Musso at the Box this morning, and somebody had asked a question about LSU and Tennessee, because both teams are pretty hot right now, right? And you look at Tennessee and the arms that they have, whether it's Dolander, Burns, Beam, Andrew Lindsey, Seth Halverson, like they've got Aaron Combs. They've got dudes. Camden Sewell, didn't even mention him. They're extremely deep. That is the strength of their team. It's why Tennessee was ranked number 2 preseason this year, was because of everything they had coming back on the mound. They lost, Russell, Gilbert, Beck, Lipsius. So you go down the line of guys they lost from their lineup. The pitching is why. It struggled a bit early. They've made their changes. They're really going well now. But you look at LSU's bats, and the question was kind of who has the advantage. LSU's bats are really hot. Tennessee's arms are really hot. I will tell you, for me, I am just a very staunch, good pitching always beats good hitting. So because I believe that so vehemently, I will tell you Tennessee would have the advantage in that spot. But LSU has Paul Skenes. That's the caveat in that game. They're throwing a great pitcher who can stifle a great lineup too. So if you're talking about just that matchup, LSU-Tennessee, who has the advantage pitching versus bats, I'll go with Tennessee's pitching. Who has the advantage in the game? I'm going to go LSU because they have Paul Skenes and Tennessee does not.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any totals out there. This seems like a low one. This seems like 10.5, 9.5 stuff, regardless of who Tennessee pitches, and I think we'll get to that as well. But yeah, Tennessee, second in team ERA, second in strikeout to walk ratio. Going to be very important, especially in a big ballpark where those homers might not come so easy. So yeah, Wake Forest is lapping you in ERA. That's how it is. But outside of that, Tennessee's the best out there. And I'll be honest, I kind of thought Clemson would come out of that regional, but Tennessee took care of business quite easily, and this is a tough team to go up against right out of the gates.
They did, man. How good was that Clemson-Tennessee game, too? I mean, until something tops it, and I don't really know if anything can. That was the game of the tournament, and Clemson went all in. I mean, Eric Bakich went full midweek game in that one and just kept bringing in arm after arm after arm after arm, and that took a lot out of him. There was the terrible ejection. That's the thing with Tennessee is the depth they have on the mound. They might not beat LSU Saturday, but that team is dangerous coming out of the losers bracket, as is Wake Forest. Like and we'll break down the brackets a little bit more later on. We have a segment walled off for just College World Series, not necessarily LSU. But when you look at the bracket LSU's in, you have the two teams, 2 out of 3, if you throw Florida in there, that really conceivably could come through the losers bracket. 2 of them are in LSU's bracket. So as much as you want to get to 2-0 and be beaten twice, it's not a certainty that you just cruise to the finals, which, again, brings back the Paul Skenes conversation of, okay, you could see him on that Thursday. So that's the interesting point. One more thing before we hit the break here. You have a thought on what LSU might do game number 2? Because that's something I know I've been asked. I'm sure Hanny and Ott have talked about it a lot too. Everyone assumes here with Skenes going for LSU, Louder going for Wake Forest, you should end up with LSU Wake Forest Monday night at 6 p.m. in the winners bracket. It's baseball. Crazy things happen, obviously. You should end up with that. Ty Floyd, while he's been great down the stretch, the last 2 outings in the postseason, the pitch count's gotten up really high early, and he just hadn't been able to get you as deep into the game. He's pitched well, just hasn't been able to get you in the deep in the game. So I've had a lot of people ask me, and again, I'm sure Hanny and Ott have talked about it, might LSU look somewhere differently in that? Maybe a Thatcher Hurd or somewhere like that. Do you have a thought on that?
Thatcher Hurd hasn't pitched in a while.
He hasn't?
I'm almost tempted to trot him out there for a Monday game. Maybe, and this would never become publicized from Jay Johnson, but do you wait and see who you face? I mean, Stanford has a chance in this game. Wake Forest, yes. Rhett Louder, it's going to be difficult. It's an uphill climb for them. But Stanford has the experience at the College World Series. That's something that Charlie and Jimmy talked about quite a bit this week. They've been here. Wake Forest hasn't been here since the 50s. So maybe those early jitters get to Wake Forest, and maybe that would change your outcome in this game. But looking ahead, it's a dangerous game, but I would say, actually, I don't mind Thatcher Hurd in that game too.
It'll be an interesting decision. And yeah, you're right. Jay Johnson's not going to say anything. I mean, he's not going to say a word about a starting pitching decision at all. We're going to hit a break here, Max. What we got?
Yeah, Roosters Men's Grooming Center. Tell you about them. If you're watching us here on YouTube, you can see I probably need a haircut right now, so guess I'm in luck because Roosters Men's Grooming Center right there, Old Perkins at Highland over by Blue Bayou. Great environment. They'll get you a good cut. It's certainly for Father's Day weekend. Maybe you have plans. Maybe you're having some people over, friends over for Omaha. That'll be great. Get you a haircut, look nice, and guess what? Father's Day weekend also means maybe you haven't come up with a Father's Day gift. Great certificate. Great idea here. Buy $100 in gift cards, you'll get an additional $25 tacked on. Why wouldn't you do that? Roosters Men's Grooming Center. That's Old Perkins and Highland over by Blue Bayou. That's Roosters Men's Grooming Center. We'll be back after this. This is Live at Lunch on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch.
Infinity of Baton Rouge in the market for another vehicle. We were earlier this year. There was no doubt about where we were going. We're going back and getting the certified pre-owned program at Infinity of Baton Rouge. You know what? When you bring a vehicle back in and you put it through an inspection that will allow you to back it with a 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, you got the utmost confidence that that vehicle is back up to code. Then with the certified pre-owned program, they're going to give you some really nice perks. First-year maintenance is taken care of, roadside assistance is included, and a complimentary vehicle when you bring your car in for service. That's my favorite. Nothing I hate worse than having to sit around and wait for your vehicle to be serviced or provide for transportation while it's being serviced. No, they're going to take care of you there. Transparency in pricing, a huge amount of inventory, and it's a very comfortable buying experience. I know. We've done it several times, and we'll go back again. I'll give you a quote on your vehicle in less than 15 minutes, cash in your hand if you want it, or a trade-in, no pressure to buy if you just want the information. All part of the service on Airline Highway at Accurate Infinity of Baton Rouge.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com. Poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench. Live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045 ESPN.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look.
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there.
Charles Hannegriff, our Omaha home for the College World Series is the Ameristar Casino and Hotel in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just minutes away from downtown Omaha. Enjoy the only casino buffet in the area and a full sports book. Eat, watch, and bet at the Ameristar Casino and Hotel.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, back here live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Not Ott and Hanny. They're on their way to Omaha. Musso and Max, we're filling in for the guys. A lot to get to here. One segment in. Going to focus a lot on baseball. LSU got a transfer out of the portal. Michael Braswell from South Carolina. I'll tell you a little bit more about him, in the next hour. LSU also got some more honors All-American-wise that we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show. Going to do some SEC football schedule. LSU, we know the opponents now. Get some reaction to that. And then another segment on the entire SEC as a whole. I have some thoughts on Texas' schedule. It's ridiculous. And, of course, a lot of rumors with Pelicans. The U.S. Open gets underway today. I love golf. Do you love golf, Max?
Love golf.
Love golf. It's great.
My favorite.
We'll pass along an update with that as the tournament is underway out there in California, LA Country Club as well. But what I want to do here is some more broad on the College World Series. We focused a lot in on LSU there in the first segment, but the 8 teams, this is one of the more interesting 8-team fields I feel like we've had in a while. You kind of touched on it a little bit in the last segment. Stanford is the only repeat offender from last year. This is the Cardinals' third trip in a row to Omaha. Everybody else is either there for the first time in a while or we don't have any first timer ever. It kind of feels like it for Oral Roberts and Wake Forest, but at least everybody has been to the College World Series in their time. It's just been a long time. You look at TCU 2017, LSU 2017, Florida 2018, and then of course Wake Forest 55 and 73, I think, for Oral Roberts. So it's interesting. Skip used to always say you have to go and lose first to win it, right? Well, unless Stanford wins it, that's not the case this year. Somebody's going to win it cold.
Yeah, it's new blood, and you kind of appreciate a little bit of turnover here in college baseball. Hopefully LSU's in this long term, they'll be back over and over again, but it's hard to do. I mean, it goes to show you when you see this lineup how regionals and super regionals, it's no guarantee, and it's just a pleasure to be here if you're one of the 8 teams. It's not easy to get here, and I'm really looking forward to Wake Forest Stanford actually on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who you're matched up against. I don't think this is as cut and dry as Wake Forest is clearly the better team, clearly has the better pitcher. Stanford, been there, done that. They looked pretty good. It was an exciting series last week for sure against Texas, but you know, you hate to win it, I guess, in the way in which they did, but they're more than happy to punch their ticket, and they probably could have done it a lot quicker. So Stanford's a talented team, and I think that experience might come in handy this week.
That is an interesting thing, and you know what? You brought up something, too, the way Stanford got there. So everyone, when they talk about Wake Forest, and look, Wake Forest is very good. They are as balanced as the numbers say. They are that team. They're deep. They've got, Kurtz and Wilkin in the middle of that lineup are monsters, one from the left side, one from the right, each over 20 home runs. They are great leadoff hitter and Tommy Hawk. They are very good. 3 starters, bullpen. The one thing everyone always says is they have not been punched in the mouth yet. And I think when most people bring that up, it's in reference to an SEC school, like an LSU, a Tennessee, a Florida. Wait till they have to run up against them, get punched in the mouth. Stanford is that team, though, that can do that. You know why? Because Stanford has been punched in the mouth last year and this year in their path to Omaha. 2 years in a row now. 2 years in a row, Stanford has had to come through the losers bracket in their own regional to get out of that and then have a super regional go to 3 games. They have been punched in the mouth. They have been through the wars. They have the Omaha experience. Stanford could very well be that team to punch Wake Forest in the mouth, and we'll see how they respond.
Yeah, and Wake Forest, I think when LSU got that draw, it seems difficult. You play them in their sort of section of the bracket. But would you really want to play this team if they were to get to the final in a best-of-3 series? I don't think that's really ideal either. This is a better team on paper than LSU, let's be honest. ACC, they had a soft schedule, sure, but ERA-wise, all the stats pretty much prove that Wake Forest is a better team for the majority of the season at least. So, yeah, they haven't been tested, but I don't think it's all that bad necessarily to be on this side of the bracket with Wake Forest, because you might just have to play them once, and if at all.
That is true. I mean, that's, everyone's asked. I've seen this question a lot too. Which side of the bracket's easier? Well, I mean, you've got the 8 best teams in the country now remaining, so it's all tough. I think each bracket has its challenges. I mean, I think if you look at just a pure talent standpoint, it's obviously bracket 2 where LSU is, because you have the most talented team in LSU history. Tennessee, we just went through how deep they were on the mound in the first segment. You got 3 first-rounders in Burns, Beam, and Dolander. Wake Forest, Stanford, who's got the experience, and, I mean, they're uber talented as well. From a talent standpoint there, but, I mean, man, I look at Oral Roberts and TCU, and that's one of the games that intrigues me most in this opening round.
Really?
It does, because I think from both angles, too. Let's take Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts is good. Like, they are. They have an All-American closer. They had a guy in their lineup on a friggin' 47-game hitting streak or something like that, Jonah Cox. Jake McMurray, whose brother Cooper plays at Auburn. Like, you know how good he is. He comes from that same family. He's hitting 327. Like, he's really good. Top to bottom, they're a good team. And I mentioned Cade Denton at the back end of the bullpen, who's an All-American. Oral Roberts has a very, very, I hesitate to say this because they won the whole thing, but a very Fresno State feel. They're not going to back down. They blew an 8-0 lead, lost game 1 of the Super on the road at Oregon. I didn't think they'd get off the mat. They come back and walk them off the next night and then dominate game 3. A 4 seed that comes through a regional is always dangerous. It's only the 3rd one to ever make it to Omaha. Fresno State won it all. Stony Brook fell flat on their face and went 0-2. You've seen both sides. When I look at Oral Roberts, I lean more Fresno State. Not saying Oral Roberts is going to go win the whole thing, but they're not lucky to be here, right? They didn't just get hot for 2 weeks in the postseason and make it to Omaha. They are a very good team. But on the other hand, TCU is one of the hottest teams in the country right now. I mean, you got the ace pitcher, Cole Kleckler,
yes.
coming off a great outing in the Super Regional. What's interesting in TCU's path is they had to go through a team similar to Oral Roberts and Indiana State, where it's that underdog mentality. They're coming in. They're not going to be intimidated. They're really good. They're not just a team that got hot. They've been good all year, and TCU beat them in 2 games. So that's the interesting juxtaposition I find with that game, is Oral Roberts having that Cinderella-type run, but being very good. It's not a fluky Cinderella run, but TCU having already dealt with one of those teams in the postseason and being a Power 5 program at a baseball school now that has had plenty of success in big-time moments.
Yeah, TCU winning 11 in a row. I was a little bit less impressed with their offensive performance, certainly last week in the Super Regional. It seemed like they were on fire after the Regional. I mean, Trey Richardson, you got the grand slams. I mean, what more can you ask for from an offense? And that's what they were doing better than probably anyone in the country in the Regional against Arkansas, against very good pitching, by the way.
Yes.
So Indiana State, they dropped off a little bit. They won it in 2 games, but they have faced a similar team, I guess, in Indiana State. So that should help them in. I got to be honest, though, you really like TCU or Roberts. I think Florida-Virginia is the game of the opening round, right? I mean, these are 2 teams that have a deep bullpen that I actually think could lose this game and still make it out. But this matchup right out of the get-go, it's the fairest when you look at odds. When you look at the pitching matchup, I think it's very close either way when you look at this Virginia-Florida game.
It is. I mean, it is very close. I mean, look, you'll get Brandon Sproat going for Florida, and he's had moments this year where he has just looked incredible. He's also had moments this year. It's just been a little inconsistent for him. But, I mean, you go back to the game against Alabama where the game was less than 2 hours. He threw a 2-hit shutout or something like that, complete game. He was great in the Super Regional against South Carolina and got off to a really slow start in that game. He had 7 hits in the first 2 innings and then just cruised the rest of the way there. So he's been very good. Florida, I'm with you on them coming through a loser's bracket. I think the same can be said for Virginia, too. I mean, you come back and win 2 games in a Super Regional. That doesn't happen often. 80% of the time, the team that wins game 1 advances to Omaha. And I think you can look at that a lot of different ways where it's, okay, was it just the, is the better team just they slipped up? They should have won game one anyway, so they won the last two. I don't necessarily know if that's all the case. I think so much of it is each team has burned their best arm, and you have to go through it's hard. You lose when burning your best arm. It's hard to come back the next 2 days without him. Virginia was able to do that. Florida's bullpen has really come along down the stretch as well, because that was a weakness for them early, and it's not anymore. Yeah,
Virginia pretty steady. I think consistent at the top. They've got 4 starters who have pitched all but 5 games, and Florida's very similar. Their starters are all the same. Every game you face them, so it's very familiar, but it won't be confusing for them as it will for other teams as to who to start in which game. They will feel comfortable in any situation. But to open game one, Friday, I think that's a great game to get us started on opening day. So
I agree. And one more thing with Florida coming out of the losers bracket, potentially that would help their offense. That lineup is real. They can outslug too. Like, say they have to throw the guy from kind of the bottom of their bullpen and have a great day. Their offense can pick up the slack with Josh Rivera and the freshman who hits leadoff. Caglione, but the freshman hits leadoff. Cade, I can't remember his name, but he's incredible. Cade something. He got 17 homers, hits 300 as a freshman. He's been great. Rivera, that's a very real lineup.
Langford.
Wyatt Langford, that guy. Yeah, how could I forget Wyatt Langford, the top 5 pick that patrols the outfield for Florida and hits number 2. Yeah, he's pretty darn good too. So that is that's something not to be discounted as well. Their offense coming through a loser's bracket is massive. Hughes Bowden in the YouTube chat says, "Whoa, Musso, that Stony Brook team was incredibly talented, not just some team that got hot." I did not say they were just some team that got hot. I said they fell flat on their face in Omaha, which they did. I was just referencing Oral Roberts is not some team that got hot over the last course of the season. Stony Brook was very good. They were in Baton Rouge for a reason. Jankowski, their center fielder, is still playing in the major leagues. So, yes, good team. Went 2-Q. That's what I said. All right. Do we have a live read right here?
It's coming up. Supreme Rice, our good friends. By the way, I'll go ahead and preempt this. How about that, right? Tailgating. Maybe you're going up to Omaha. You want to serve the good people of Omaha well, don't you?
You do.
Don't let them down with mediocre Louisiana food. They're expecting the heat. It's been a while since we've been up there. So if you're an LSU fan, Supreme Rice, on your way up there, before you get there, all your local grocery stores, you got it ready to go. Supreme Rice. It's been grown, milled, processed, Crowley, Louisiana, since the 1930s, I think that is. So it's been a while. So Crowley, trust Louisiana farmers locally here, and it's great product. Don't settle for anything else. Go with Supreme Rice. You'll be right there, and you'll make the Omaha friends very happy. You'll have a ton of friends coming back with you, maybe to Baton Rouge soon.
All right, we're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. The SEC released the football schedule, the long-awaited football schedule. 8 games in 2024. Texas and Oklahoma join the league. We will take a look at LSU's draw in the next segment. The conference as a whole, I should say, later on in the show. So come back with us. Musso, Max, we're hanging out with you here live at lunch on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch.
Don't forget our friends over at Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com. Charlie, when you go to the grocery store, whether it's you or the person doing your grocery shopping, make sure that they pick Louisiana rice, not the out-of-state rice, not the overseas rice that's kind of right next to them in the grocery store shelves, but Louisiana rice. It's 1936 grown, milled, processed in South Louisiana.
There's a lot of ample tailgating spots outside of Charles Schwab Field in Omaha. So if you're stocking up to make the trek up to Omaha and you're tailgating up there, we've seen some great rigs go up there, those some terrific parties. If jambalaya, if crawfish etouffee, if red beans, anything with rice, make it with Supreme Rice on your trip to Omaha. In fact, our Omaha friends, our Supreme Rice friends, will be with us up in Omaha. So stop by and say hello. For more information, some great recipes, go to SupremeRice.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 7.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Final preps from Omaha for the Tigers, and LSU defensive lineman Mason Smith joins us. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, well, boy, what a saga it was for the LSU, for the SEC football schedule in 2024, and as you know, by proxy, the LSU football schedule in 2024. Is it going to be 9 games? Everybody thought they were on board for that. And then about, I don't know, a week before SEC meetings, it was like, nah, it's probably going to be 8 games because people want more money, and Nick Saban hates the draw that he got. And that's ultimately what happened. So you have this complete facade that they threw out there of a 1-year, 8-game schedule. This is my favorite part. 1 permanent, 7 rotating. Not sure how you rotate with 1 year, but, you know, it sounds good on paper. So stay hot, Greg Sankey in the SEC offices. But last night, they released the schedule. Not dates, but opponents. We know who everybody has. Let's take a look at LSU first, Max, and then later on in the show, next hour, we can look at the SEC as a whole, because there are some interesting things. A couple things to note for this. A rule they put into place was Texas or Oklahoma. Each team would have at least one of them on their schedule. So the other 14 teams in the league, all of them would play either Texas or Oklahoma. Also, when looking at how the SEC did this, they formulated kind of the same way they were going to do the 9-game schedule, where they broke the league into 2 halves. The top half of the league based off a winning percentage from the last decade. The bottom half, same way, winning percentage last decade. Top half would get guaranteed 2 from the top, 1 from the bottom, and flip that for the bottom. 2 from the bottom, 1 for the top. That was used basically kind of for the same thing, and it's evident when you look at the schedule. Everyone had thought, all right, LSU, and that's going to get Bama, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. Well, in fact, LSU does have Bama, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M on their schedule. That's why it was so crazy, right? When everybody was like, what do you think LSU is going to get on their schedule in 2024 with the new format? Well, because it's just 1 year, they're going to get basically their same schedule. You might have a couple different games. I'm sure they'll get either Texas or Oklahoma and somebody else, a couple others on there. And they did. LSU playing Bama. They're playing Ole Miss. They're playing Arkansas. They're playing Florida. They're playing Texas A&M. Like, all of that looks very similar to how an LSU schedule would, and you'd expect that. The difference is there's no Mississippi State. That's odd to see, obviously. I mean, you normally play everybody in the West, but outside of that, it's pretty much the same. So, breaking it down, home games. LSU in 2024 will face Alabama, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt. You love to see it, first of all, that LSU got Vanderbilt on the schedule again. And then Oklahoma, which I think is fascinating. On the road, LSU will go to Arkansas, which is just your normal rotation there because Arkansas's here this year. Florida, normal rotation. Florida's here this year. South Carolina is the interesting one. And then you go Texas A&M, which is normal rotation. So not really a lot different other than South Carolina, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. Thoughts?
So I went ahead and put together what the schedule would have been under the current structure, what it might have looked like. So one thing of note, and this was known before yesterday, but LSU opens with, for their first 5 games, being the out-of-conference. So you're not going to see a Georgia State in November. You're not going to see Army in October, which I don't know why LSU did that this year. That's very odd.
I hate that. I have thoughts on that, and I hate it.
You know, triple option in the middle of the season seems like a terrible idea.
The week before your bye and then Bama. Don't stop. No,
you're wasting time
in
practice that week. But you've got USC and UCLA, 2 new Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
But Nicholls, South Alabama, the other teams. What's interesting is if you replace the teams that you would have had, you really only have 2 replacements. South Carolina, you haven't played in a little while. You played them in 2020, I believe, but that was a COVID year, so that doesn't really count.
TJ
it was
Finley.
2015 that LSU hosted South Carolina in a game that should have been in Columbia. That was Hurricane Joaquin, moved it to Baton Rouge. So the Tigers actually haven't been to Columbia since 2008. It's been a long time. Wow. So this is going to be a trek. You're going to hear Inner Sandman, I think, is this, or is that Virginia Tech?
That's Virginia Tech. Yeah. Sandstorm.
Absolutely. Right. So it's been a while that LSU's been up there. So we'll see what they can do there. But essentially, you were going to play them likely anyway, maybe at home, but you're going to go to Columbia instead. Mississippi State is replaced with Oklahoma, and Auburn on the road would have likely been, as they host them this year, is now Vanderbilt at home. So you replace Mississippi State and Auburn with Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. I think that's about an even split, possibly for the better, actually, because Oklahoma right now is the weaker of the 2 teams, Oklahoma and Texas. It's hard to project now with the transfer portal what those teams will be like next year. But as of now, the way things stand, Texas is the more superior opponent than Oklahoma is coming in. So I think overall LSU got a bit of a break here with the schedule. It's not quite the gauntlet, but Texas, you'll get in 2025. They're going to rotate every year. Every team will get them one of the first 2 years. You would imagine that Texas will come to Baton Rouge after the last go-round. We'll see if Texas is allowed to put the band up in the nosebleeds this time around. But
that was one of my things. I think the Oklahoma game in Tiger Stadium is going to be fascinating. Like, that's going to be very, very, very fun. I wanted Texas for what you just mentioned. They never made the return trip from 2019 because of COVID in 2020. That was the one I was hoping to get out of the 2 first, but you'll get Oklahoma, and that's going to be fascinating. There's a lot of bad blood kind of between the LSU and Oklahoma fan bases, which is interesting. I mean, I remember it mainly in 19 because that was the first time they had played each other since the 03 championship. And Oklahoma fans just brought up all these horror stories of their dealings with LSU fans in New Orleans in 2003 for that game. And they were just very, very mad about it. And LSU was kind of just like, who are you? Like, not really in that mold. And it's like, well, if you were mad then, you're going to be really mad because this is going to go very poorly for you. And it did. But that's an interesting element to that. And now them coming to Baton Rouge, I'm fascinated by that. And I mentioned Vanderbilt. I mean, Bravo, Scott Woodward. Bravo, everybody in the scheduling department. You've done it again. In 2020, when LSU had to make that COVID schedule, they lobbied, got Vanderbilt on there. Thank goodness, too, because otherwise you probably have a losing record that year. If you don't, you're not 5-5. You almost have a losing record anyway. But, again, you have to makeshift the schedule, and the Tigers land Vanderbilt. You love to see it, honestly. Give me the wins, all of them.
They're coming. Don't you know? Clark Lee said they're coming. Watch out. Vanderbilt might be good by then. You can't. Transfer portal, Nashville, that's a nice place. I mean, that might be attractive to some teams. I kid, obviously. Yeah, you avoid Mississippi State and Auburn. I'd take Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's an interesting one for all the reasons you mentioned. But Vanderbilt almost makes all that worthwhile. So it's a good schedule reveal, I think. Very favorable for LSU after all is said and done.
It'll be year 3 as well of Brent Venables at Oklahoma. Year 1 did not go well. We'll see what happens year 2. So that'll be year 3. That could be either them coming up or he's very much in a, hey, prove it type situation. So there's a lot of intrigue surrounding that game. But that's a great home schedule for LSU when you look at it. You got UCLA making the return trip, like you mentioned, Bama and OU coming to Baton Rouge. Ole Miss, I mean, the people always get fired up for Ole Miss. That's a really awesome home schedule we have to look forward to in 2024. And Nichols, they filled that spot. That was the other question, right? I remember LSU had moved the Rice game, further kind of driving home the fact that everyone thought they were going to 9 games. They had moved that, so they had an open spot. The Nichols Colonels will fill that. So, man, look, we're all excited for 2023, and it looks like it's going to be a really good year. LSU's got a lot in front of them, a lot of expectation. Hard to not be excited about that schedule, though, in 2024.
Yeah, get ready to see more big game Boomer. He's coming to the SEC. Watch
out.
I
muted him on Twitter, so I don't see him, and it was one of the best decisions I've made. I will leave that feud. To T-Bob Hebert. I will leave the big game Boomer feud to T-Bob Hebert, and I will just live in a peaceful bliss without him cluttering up my Twitter.
I think T-Bob can handle it for us.
Yeah, I think so.
He'll rep us well.
Celebrity boxing match. Somebody get Ronnie Rance on the phone. Celebrity boxing match, T-Bob versus Big Game Boomer. That needs to be the next headline right there.
I'd pay for it. I'd pay for it for sure.
Make a list out of that.
Yeah, get a table. We'll get a table out there. We'll let Rugaran promote it. It'll be great. Going to grab a break. Come back on the other side. We will close out the first hour live at lunch. Musso and Max in for Hanny and Ott. The boys are on their way to Omaha. They'll be joining you tonight for a special live at lunch. Are we calling it live at lunch, live at dinner? What are we?
Live at lunch dinner edition?
Live at lunch dinner edition.
Whatever you want to do.
6 to 8, the old Game Time spot. They're going to be at the Barstool Sportsbook at the Ameristar Casino Hotel, just outside of downtown Omaha. So if you're up there getting ready to watch the Tigers, go see the guys as well. Ameristar Casino Hotel inside the Barstool Sportsbook there. Special 6 to 8 p.m. Edition of Live at Lunch Dinner edition here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. That's going to be presented to you by Roosters Men's Grooming. We're going to grab a break, come back, and close out hour number 1 next. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
This summer, retirement is a state of mind. Whether it's a mid-morning activity or an early bird special. Grab a Coors Light and chill like you're retired.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
And even browse jobs by simply going to lofton.jobs. That's lofton.jobs. We also offer an unlimited $100 referral bonus. At Lofton, we put people to work. Lofton.jobs.
Riverlands Insurance is one of the fastest growing insurance agencies in the southern U.S. Representing over 100 insurance carriers, they're large enough to find you the best deal, but still able to provide that personal touch. Call Thomas Email today at 225-206-1517.
Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. 5 brands on one lot. Shop BayouAutomotive.com.
104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Up on Friday's OTP, the penultimate day before Omaha gets underway. It's time, Tennessee. Come out to play. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, wrapping up hour number 1 here, live at lunch. Musso and Max in for Hanny and Ott. The U.S. Open, my favorite golf tournament of the year, is underway now. Los Angeles Country Club out there. We're getting some primetime golf here the next few nights. So can't really beat that. Max, what's going on out there early on here in the tournament?
So you like U.S. Open because of Carnage, I'm assuming, right?
I do. I love that. Now, with we don't need to go Shinnecock Hills on it where guys are hitting good shots and not getting rewarded. Like, that shouldn't happen. But, yeah, I like the challenge that it presents to the best golfers in the world. And I also love the movie Tin Cup, which is centered around the U.S. Open. So I love the U.S. Open.
All right, a few more birdie opportunities this week than at Shinnecock Hills. Good start for Jacob Solomon and Dylan Wu, 3 under par through the front 9. So Jacob Solomon, I believe one of the qualifiers, worked his way through. That's one of the great things about an Open championship like this. National Open. Some good starts as well for Ricky Fowler and Xander Schauffele at 2 under. Bryson DeChambeau, Max Homa at 1 under par. John Rahm even through 5, the Masters champion. Scotty Scheffler off to a bit of a rough start, 1 over through 5. Victor Hovland as well. Tyrrell Hatton, Colin Morikawa at 2 over. And Patrick Reed, U-High's own, 4 over through 6 holes. Rough start for him. But the good news is the afternoon wave yet to go off, and that gives you some time to still play some bets. Brady Cannon joined Sports Bettor's Paradise. You can find it on wherever you get your podcast or on YouTube. Jimmy and Brady Cannon went very in-depth on the U.S. Open, and the good news is he's still got a couple of picks from the afternoon. So we'll give you one here. Brady Cannon explains why he likes Cameron Smith this week at LACC.
He's got a number of top 10 finishes recently on the LIV Tour. We talked about Jordan Spieth and Chambers Bay. Well, Cameron Smith finished 4th that year. at that U.S. Open. Of course, he's won at St. Andrews. He's got an incredible track record at Augusta National, and you mentioned the win at Kapalua. Again, the wide fairways and the elevation change. And again, I mentioned this at the start. I don't think there's a real good match as far as correlated courses for Los Angeles Country Club. But a lot of these courses that we're talking about have a lot of similarities. And Cam Smith has done well at those properties. We know he's maybe the best putter in the entire field, especially on bent grass, and that's the type of green playing surface we have this week. Bent grass greens, the same they have at Augusta, where Cam Smith has been a wizard with the flat stick and the creativity. We know that's certainly a big part of his arsenal.
Yeah, LA Country Club should be a great spot for this. It's going to look great on TV. Not quite the environment we've seen because there's like a third of the fans with the infrastructure being in the middle of LA. But Cam Smith kind of suits the bill. It's someone I bet personally myself. You can still get him at 30-1 right now, which is where he started anyway. That's where Brady gave him out. So Cameron Smith, Aussie, looking for his second major. Maybe he can get it done here. But yeah, Cameron Smith, I think a good shout this week at LA Country Club.
He's always somebody people highlight for these. I mean, always has been. He's a great player. And what Brady said there, I mean, the flat stick is elite for him. When you were going through that update, you mentioned Ricky Fowler. Man, I'm glad to see Ricky Fowler playing well. He went through that stretch where it just, it was not good. And he seems to be getting it back on the track. We'll see what he can go. Sam Burns, though, U.S. Open champion. Call him a shot right now.
All right, I like it.
We're going to grab a break, come back. Hour number 2, live at lunch, is next on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $25,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring. Wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah. You don't know what you're doing. Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. And cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hour number 2, live at lunch here on 104.5 ESPN. Obviously, I am not Ott, nor am I Hanny. I'm Musso. Max is here as well. We're filling in. Mario Jerez, Taylor Sharp. We are on YouTube today. One day only, live at lunch on the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. So if you're listening, you want to watch, get over there. Hit like, subscribe. Help us out a little bit. We've had a great show so far. 1 hour in the books. Talked a lot of College World Series, a lot of baseball. Of course, that's why we're here. Hanny and Ott are traveling today to Omaha and the College World Series. They will anchor your coverage all week long. In fact, they are back tonight in the old game time slot, 6 to 8 p.m. here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hanny and Ott will be live from the Barstool Sportsbook at the Ameristar Casino and Hotel just outside of downtown Omaha. So if you're down there, go check out the guys. That's presented by Roosters Men's Grooming. Tomorrow, Friday, they will be back in this normal spot, 11 to 1 p.m. Live from Barrett's Barley Corn, presented by Six Rings Baseball Academy in Covington. And then Saturday, leading you up to first pitch, LSU and Tennessee pregame show on Eagle 98.1 and on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, 3 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. They'll have guests. They'll go to Charles Schwab Field. All of that will be great. Think of it like Eagle 98.1 game day for football, just for baseball. Leads you right up to network pregame at 5:30. So that's what we've got going on here programming-wise with Hanny and Ott as they travel up to Omaha. Until then, you're stuck with me and Max for one more hour here. It's been great. I've enjoyed it a lot. Last hour, I should say, Max, we talked SEC football schedule release, but from an LSU perspective. Here in this segment, I kind of want to do it from a SEC as a whole perspective. And again, just as a brief refresher, right? Everyone thought they'd go to 9 games. They didn't have the votes for a variety of reasons that we'll get into here when we discuss some schedules for these teams. They end up with the 8 game for 2024 when Texas and Oklahoma joined the league. You have the 1 permanent and 7 rotating for 1 year. You rotate for 1 year, which I know, yes, it doesn't make any sense. And it's created some really interesting matchups. As I said, we went through Oklahoma, LSU's. They'll get Oklahoma at Tiger Stadium, which is really cool. They get Vanderbilt. They'll make a trip to Columbia, South Carolina. You said for the first time since 2008, which is a little wild. So, I mean, you see all of that going in. But I look around the league, and there's some interesting ones. And I want to start with Texas and Oklahoma because they're the 2 new, members of the league. When you look at Oklahoma at home, technically Texas, but it's the Red River Shootout, and it'll be in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, so that doesn't really count. They get Alabama at home, which is really cool, but you also play Alabama. They get Tennessee at home, which really cool. We saw the home and home with Tennessee in Oklahoma not too long ago, actually in the early to mid 2010s era there, and that was a really cool series. So you get to revive that. That's awesome. But again, Tennessee kind of looks like they're on the uptick. That's, not great for Oklahoma. South Carolina. Shane Beamer just keeps outpacing their projected win total every year. Like, they just keep hitting the over. And I think it's at like 6 again this year. And I'm like, I don't want to take the over on South Carolina again because they just keep doing it. So maybe that's not super tough. It'll be a bit of a rebuilding year. No Spencer Rattler. None of that. They come to LSU, as we said. They go to Auburn. Jordan-Hare is an incredibly tough place to play. They go to Ole Miss, and then they get Missouri. That's a pretty tough first year in the SEC, if I'm looking at it from an Oklahoma perspective. You get Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, and LSU all on your schedule. And then you have to deal with Lane Kiffin, the offense, and what he could potentially do to Oklahoma's defense. That's a rough 8 games to start your tenure here in the league.
I mean, I guess they avoided Georgia. There's their only good news. I mean, this is a pretty rough gauntlet for them. And you mentioned the games at home are almost most difficult, which is less than ideal. You go on the road, you play the easier games, and you maybe can trip up in those atmospheres. Auburn's not an easy place to go. I think they'll handle themselves well in Como, Missouri. But, LSU on the road, that's a brutal schedule for them. And it was a given they were going to probably keep the Texas rivalry together.
Yeah.
There are a lot of rivalries that actually remain the same. Even with the rotating schedules, it seemed like a lot of the interesting, sort of meetings that we'd have outside of LSU Auburn, really, that were mainly kept intact by this schedule release.
They were. And I mean, that I think that's kind of what worked in Texas's favor a little bit, and we'll get to their schedule, is the traditional rivalries that the SEC wanted to protect. Oklahoma doesn't have any outside of Texas. I mean, okay, yeah, Missouri. Oh, it's an old Big 12 game. Okay, Oklahoma's going to wipe the floor with Missouri, or at least they should. You don't really have anything else. So it stood to reason that their schedule would be a little bit more random, I guess you could say. But it's Bama and LSU in the same year, and then a trip to. I guess the only way that could have been worse if you had to go to Bama and LSU, which would have been brutal. But I don't think that's necessarily what Oklahoma had in mind. Maybe when they went into this. Texas, on the other hand, the Longhorns don't have that hard of a road through their first year in the SEC. They'll play Oklahoma and Dallas. We know that. They will go to Texas A&M, which will be fire. I mean, that will be an awesome atmosphere in Kyle Field. Nobody hate me too much for complimenting Texas A&M right here, but they have been waiting for that for so long. And it's going to be one of the best atmospheres you will see all year in college football. And that will be a very tough game for Texas. They get Florida at home. Florida, name brand, sure. Is Florida really good? Vegas hates Florida this year. Like, their win total is what, 5.5, 6?
Right.
That year 2, Billy Napier? I think with how that started last year, you knock off Utah, people thought, okay, here we go, he's going to be a problem. He wasn't much of a problem, and at least the odds makers aren't expecting him to be a problem this year either. So 2024, it'll be year 3, kind of similar to what we were talking about with Brent Venables, right, at Oklahoma when they come to Baton Rouge. Similar when you look at Florida facing off Texas year 3 under Billy Napier. Either it's going to be, okay, he's starting to turn this thing around, starting to get it under. It's going to be like, hey, man, prove it, or you're going to be on the hot seat and out of here. So that's interesting. They have to go to Arkansas. Okay, fine, whatever. Again, old Big 12 thing, traditional thing. It was a tough game for them. They lost, actually, the last time they went up to Arkansas, sure. But they still get to play Arkansas. And then Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Mississippi State. How the hell did Texas get Mississippi State, Kentucky, Vanderbilt their first year in the league? How is that possible? And Oklahoma gets stuck with the gauntlet that they got. Now, they have to play Georgia, but they get it at home. They get Georgia at home. Like, I think that's actually worse for Georgia than anything. Many thought Alabama was going to steamroll Texas last year in Austin. Alabama should have lost that game. If not for Bryce Young, Alabama would have lost that game. So, how does Texas, their first year in the league, lobby and get 3 layups? Sorry, 3 layups.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion at SEC meetings and talking to Texas, like, be careful what you wish for. You're coming to the SEC. Wait till it gets real. Your schedule will come out, and you're not going to like it very much. And I think they're like, all right, actually, we kind of like the schedule. Oklahoma, not so much. But, yeah, Texas has to feel very good about where they are. I will say another team outside of Oklahoma that got a rough draw here. I would say Georgia. You lose the SEC East softballs, right? You get Tennessee and Florida. You'll keep that rivalry there in Jacksonville. And Kentucky. I mean, that's the best of the East right there.
Yeah.
And then you just move over to the West. You get Alabama on the road, Texas on the road, Ole Miss, not easy to play in Oxford. Depends what time of year that might be, perhaps. But you host Auburn, and you host Mississippi State. That's the one. Georgia's going to be tested next year.
Finally. That's my look. I'm not here to tell you that Georgia was not great the last 2 years, because obviously they were. Obviously they were. Kirby Smart recruits at a extremely high level, but there was no landmines in their schedule. And they almost created one in Como last year. Missouri should have won that game, but they couldn't kick field goals. Finally. That's what I say. I'm sorry. Again, Georgia was great, but they got to go to Tuscaloosa. Last time they did that, it wasn't pretty. Bama got them good, right? They have to go to Texas. We just talked about, everybody thought Bama would steamroll Texas, but that's a hard place to play in Austin. Ole Miss is intriguing. You still get Tennessee. At least that one's in Sanford Stadium. But, I can at least see 3 trip-up potential landmines on that SEC schedule, where they're not just getting South Carolina and they're not just getting Missouri all the time. They could go to Tuscaloosa and lose. They could go to Austin and lose. Depending on what Ole Miss has in 2024, Walker Howard might be their quarterback that year. Who knows? Georgia could potentially go in there and stub their toe. Finally, for me there. Georgia, their win total come out the last 2 years, it's 11.5. It's basically, do you think Georgia's going to go undefeated? That's basically the question. And the answer to it is yes. Same thing this year. Georgia's going to go undefeated. Is the trip to Neyland interesting? Sure, but we have to see what Joe Milton has in that regard. So, finally, yeah, Georgia gets tested there. Finally.
Outside of that, I'm not sure where you really want to look. Arkansas and A&M, they kind of kept a lot of their rivalries. Yeah. I think that's exciting for them from that perspective. You mentioned A&M getting Texas. They're certainly looking forward to that.
That's going to be so good.
From a difficulty perspective, again, we're playing a dangerous game here, projecting next year with transfer portal. It can completely throw a curveball and everything. Maybe Florida's a completely different team in 2024. Maybe that's one of the difficult teams in the SEC. But I think you look at, we mentioned Alabama, but one team that sticks out to me is, I would say, Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Are in a lot of those more difficult games. It seems they obviously will get each other, but they don't really get a bye anywhere either.
No, they don't. You're going to protect the Egg Bowl, obviously, between those two teams, and you should. They love the Thanksgiving night tradition too. Those two programs have really embraced that, and it's been really good as well. Last year you had a great NFL game Thanksgiving night and the Egg Bowl. It was just second screening on both of those. They were great games, so you love that. I look at State. They have to go to Georgia and to Neyland in 2024, and that's brutal, and to Austin. Those are 3 games that I don't think anybody's going to pick Mississippi State to win. They're definitely not going to be favored in any of those. And you look at the home schedule, and it's not much better. Arkansas, Florida. Again, we'll see what Florida is, and Texas A&M. So, and again, you'll have to see what Texas A&M is going to be there too. But you look at Mississippi State and Ole Miss, and you see Mississippi State specifically, because they're one of those teams in the bottom of the league, and they got to be thinking, hey, man, we're supposed to have 2 permanents from the bottom and 1 from the top. But, you look, and okay, they do. It's easy to be like, okay, Missouri is one of their permanents from the bottom, but technically Tennessee is also technically part of the bottom of the league in this. And then you have Georgia and Texas who would be in the top. That's where it can get hairy for teams like that, and why they're saying, okay, if you're going to give the whole half of your league another loss, and let's be honest, it's most likely going to be us in the bottom of the league. We want more money, more revenue from ESPN. I completely understand their pushback on the 9 game. The same can be said for Ole Miss. Ole Miss, at least their toughest, or at least that we see, like you said, projecting a year out without the transport or anything, or are at home. At least they get Georgia and Oklahoma at home. They have to go to LSU, fine. They do that every that rotates anyway. Having Georgia, Oklahoma is tough, but at least you get them at home. Trip to the swamp, never easy, but we don't know what Florida's going to be. Sandstorm, South Carolina, we don't know what it's going to be. But at least they get their tough games at home, which I think is flipped from State, who's on the road.
Yeah, I think overall, it's a decent debut for this 8-game, 1-year temporary schedule of rotating opponents. I think we'd see maybe the negative side of this if it were to go the next year and they rotate over. I think that would get a little bit more dicey, but most fan bases, I think, would be pretty pleased. I think most teams, most head coaches will be satisfied with their draw and that you keep some of the rivalries there, at least for this year, and then you can settle that down the line in 2025, what that might look like.
Yeah, for sure. At Tennessee as well is one we should point out. It's a bit of a gauntlet too, and again, because of the road games. They have to go to Oklahoma, to Georgia. They get Alabama at home. So, I mean, you've got Alabama, Georgia, and Oklahoma all on that schedule. Florida's in there as well. Arkansas is on the road. I mean, that's, again, Sam Pittman, man, it's going to be a big year for him having to replace both coordinators, but we'll see how that goes. The last thing I'm going to say is I'm going to laugh at Nick Saban. Because who could have seen this coming, right? Y'all remember the 9-game schedule thing? And Nick's all pissed off because Alabama's going to end up with Auburn, LSU, and Tennessee as their 3 permanents, and he throws a big fit. I don't know how you get those. Well, okay, yes, you do. You're not an idiot. If I can sit here and see it on a microphone in Baton Rouge, you can sit there and see it too. Everyone's had to put up with this garbage scheduling model so you can protect the 3rd Saturday in October against Tennessee. That game's obviously not going away. You're not going to get rid of the Iron Bowl because it's the freaking Iron Bowl. And LSU, Alabama brings more eyes to the conference than any game all year long. That's not going away. But Nick pouts, he complains, and Alabama doesn't vote for the 9-game schedule because of that. And who's on their schedule? Auburn, LSU, Tennessee. Ha, ha, ha. Of course they are. And they will be forever. So get over it. Put your vote where it needs to be next time, and hopefully we can avoid this junk that we're dealing with. Suck it up, Nick. Suck it up, pal. At least Georgia's got to go through the gauntlet now, too. And you do, too. And guess what? Outside of that, you got Vanderbilt. You got Missouri. So you got some layups in there, too, man. It's the SEC. It's a hard sport. It's just funny how he goes from, the best thing to be would be, FBS, all FBS schedule or whatnot. He could say that. And then when it comes around to him, I don't know how you get that. Yeah, you do. Just fall in line. It's going to happen. That's what you're going to get. They're going to renegotiate, get revenue. They're going to go to 9 games in 25, and you're going to play Tennessee, LSU, and Auburn every year. And really the one you should be scared about most in that is LSU because they look the most stable. We don't know what Tennessee's really going to be right now. Joe Milton's lost the starting job twice. Maybe he's not going to be any good. Maybe Tennessee's going to stink this year. It's Hugh Freeze's first year in Auburn. Did Hugh Freeze have your number at Ole Miss a couple times? Sure. But mountain out of a molehill, Nick. Chill out. Play football. Win. You're the best coach ever. Your teams are going to have a lot of success.
Hanny would be proud of you right now.
Well, it's stupid. Hanny would be proud of
me.
you.
He'd be beaming.
It's so dumb. I don't know how we get there. Yes, you do know how we get there. I know how we get there. Like, LSU Bama's going to be primetime CBS again this year, where it belongs, because it's the premier game in the conference. It's just, it drove me nuts when he said that, because I'm like, grow up. Like, grow up, man. Golly. You play in a hard league. Guess what? You win that league more often than not. You really do, because you're the best coach ever. It's just stupid. And to not vote for it because of that, that's so childish. Bama can tell you they voted for it for whatever reason. They didn't vote for it because of that. That's why. And that's childish. That's stupid. All right. We got to take a break. We're late. Hanny and I would be proud of us for that, too. We're going to grab a break, come back, continue live at lunch on the other side. Stay here.
Live at lunch. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Bayou Ford has up to $7,000 off MSRP plus 0% financing on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Just the way you want them. It's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch? Every day, from lunch to late night. Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Get wings the way you want them. Try Twin Peaks wings bone-in breaded, naked, smoked and grilled, or boneless in your favorite sauce or rub.
Cut through the static and listen to 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge in high definition. Simply tune to 98.1 and select HD2.
For the perfect poolside snack, grab a Smalls Party Pack. Small Slider.
Join me, Jimmy Ott, Charles Handegrift, Thursday night edition of Live at Lunch. It's dinner time, 6 to 8 p.m. from Ameristar, brought to you by Roosters Men's Grooming Center. It's Live at Lunch, special evening edition, 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We're going to get some LSU baseball here again as the Tigers and Jay Johnson reeled in their first addition out of the transfer portal. Also some more honors handed down for current Tigers on this 2023 team. But, Max, this feels like deja vu all over again. You remember last summer when LSU just went on a recruiting heater in football?
I can remember that. Yeah.
They're doing it again. For the third time in 3 days, Brian Kelly and the Tigers reel in another one. 4-star cornerback Andre Evans has committed to LSU. That's per Hayes Fawcett over there at On3. 6 foot, 185-pound cornerback from Nashville, Tennessee. Chose the Tigers over NC State, Michigan, Alabama, and others. Top 85 player in the class of 2024 and at a position of need. They're hot. They're on a heater. Like, Brian Kelly's got the dice. He's rolling. Bet on Brian Kelly right now because the man is on fire. Again, position of need. Top 85 player in the class of 2024. Let's go. Let's go.
You mentioned corner. That instantly got my ears perked up. I mean, that is absolutely a position of need. That's something they need to address. You want to be DBU, you've got to address that position. It has not been the same for a little while now. And so, yeah, sign me up. Cornerback right now, any rating pretty much, I'll take one.
Yeah, 4-star again, top 85 player in the country, out of Nashville, Tennessee, 6 foot, 185 pounds. Andre Evans commits to LSU. I look forward to tomorrow and which commitment Brian Kelly and the Tigers will secure, because apparently that's how it goes these days. Very reminiscent of last year when they just went on an absolute heater. What we're also all hoping is very reminiscent of last year is the heater that Jay Johnson went on in the transfer portal, and he got his first commitment today. It's a name that LSU fans should be familiar with. Michael Braswell from the University of South Carolina. Middle infielder, played some shortstop in the absence of Braylon Wimmer earlier, but spent the majority of the season at second base for South Carolina. Played in 51 of the 63 games for the Gamecocks, starting 37 times. The numbers aren't going to blow you away offensively. 255 this year, just 1 home run, 23 RBIs, 353 slugging, and a 372 on base to complete the slash line there for you. But it's an elite glove for Michael Braswell.
Yeah, and I think if you want to look at the high end of this, a middle infielder that started as a freshman and was more productive really in 2022 than he was this year, batted .289, and we actually saw him a little bit on the mound. I'm curious if there's any plans to do anything there. It seems like this is a middle infield move, but yeah, I mean, he batted .289 as a freshman, took a dip to .255 this past year, moved around though, and that flexibility will be very helpful next year.
Yeah, I mean, the glove is smooth. I mean, it's highlight reel plays all over the field for Michael Braswell, again, at either short or second base. I like the move a lot for that reason. You mentioned the freshman year, the .289 season. That shows there's more in the bat there a little bit. The power number, 2 homers as a freshman, one as a sophomore. Maybe not great there, especially playing in that high school field that South Carolina does. But it's a move for the glove, and it's a move for the middle infield, as we said. The mound is interesting. A middle infielder pitching at LSU. It's going pretty well right now. Maybe it could for Michael Braswell as well. But it's a giant position of need for LSU baseball, and they're not done there. They rebuilt the middle infield through the transfer portal so much last year. Now, it didn't really show as much because Carter Young ended up taking the late offer from the Orioles and went. Gavin Dugas really stole the job. I mean, just got a death grip on the job, was never going to let it go. Thank goodness he's been incredible. But, after Carter Young leaves, you go get Ben DePolt. And Ben DePolt's played a nice little role for LSU. You have him back next year. That's something to look forward to. Outside of that, you don't, though. There's nobody else. I mean, Gavin Guidry, everybody assumes, will be the heir apparent, right, at shortstop, and probably pitch some too next year. But outside of that, Ben DePolt's the only middle infielder you return. Gavin Dugas gone. Jack Merrifield gone. So you need bodies here, and Michael Braswell's a very good one. I again, think there's potentially some more there in the bat, and you saw that with the .289 average as a freshman. If there's anybody who can get it out of him, it's a hitting guru like Jay Johnson. So overall for me, I like the move. It's the first of many. I mean, they're trying to win a national championship right now, so you can't get so caught up in transfer portal. He'll do his damage. Jay Johnson kind of owns the transfer portal, doesn't it? I mean, look at Gervais, Raiselman, Cooper, Barry, his first year here, Tommy White, Carter Young, who of course didn't make it, but Thatcher Hurd, Christian Little, Ben DePolt. I mean, it's kind of pretty good at that. I think there'll be more coming down the pike there, and it'll come together pretty quickly once the season ends. You already see it happening here midseason. So Michael Braswell, now a member of the LSU Tigers after transferring in from South Carolina. Switching gears real quick here, Max, LSU baseball-wise, more honors for the Tigers. So earlier in the week, Jared Jones was named a freshman All-American by the Baseball Writers Association of America. Today they released their first-team All-Americans and, of course, awarded the Dick Hauser Trophy. Paul Skenes won the Dick Hauser Trophy. We talked about that a little bit off the start of the show. And no surprise, Paul Skenes also a first-team All-American, along with the other usual suspects, his partners in crime, Dylan Cruz and Tommy White.
Can we have the very short, I mean, we're talking about awards, you might as well. Who's your Golden Spikes winner?
Oh, man, that's tough, right? So I would like to see the Golden Spikes Award also go to more than 3 finalists because they shafted some really good players. I mean, J.J. Weatherholt from West Virginia should have been a Golden Spikes Award finalist. Kid was awesome. I mean, even if you just add him in there and you get to 5, that'd be awesome. I mean, the fact that Wyatt Langford is not a Golden Spikes Award, right. Wyatt Langford's going to be a top 5 pick in the draft. Like, he's obviously one of the best amateur baseball players in the country. it's hard to argue with any of the three they put in there, and I think all of them have a good chance. Caglione makes me a little nervous for the LSU guys because he's two-way, and you've seen a lot of two-way players recently win that award. I mean, you could go to Brendan McKay from Louisville, A.J. Reed from Kentucky. A.J. Reed beat out Aaron Nola for that award. So, like, that does happen a lot. So that makes me nervous. Dylan Cruz, you would think, and I think before he went in his, for lack of a better term, slump, when he had the one bad weekend, but that dropped his average 30 points. If Dylan Cruz was still hitting 482 right now, it's him 100%. There's no argument. But I think watching what Paul Skenes has done, and it's hard for a pitcher to just win the award. Moscona and I have talked about this a lot on AFR. It's hard for a pitcher to win the award. Just, that's all he does. That's why a guy like Caglione's interesting. But, I mean, this is now the second National Player of the Year award for Paul Skenes. It shouldn't surprise you at all if he wins the Golden Spikes. If you give it to me and I'm picking an LSU guy to win it, I still think it's Dylan Cruz. Just more so, we see this in football with the national awards a lot, where the body of work is kind of taken into account. Like Grant Delpit winning the Thorpe, right? That's always the example everybody gives. He was the best defensive back in college football in 2018, not 2019, because his teammate Derek Stingley was. But because he was so good in 18 and didn't, drop off in 19, he wins the Thorpe Award as the best. I think that could really happen in a case with Dylan Cruz, right? Dylan Cruz has won SEC Player of the Year 2 years in a row. That's never been done before. Dylan Cruz arguably should have been a Golden Spikes Award finalist last year. Wasn't. The guy hasn't hit below 350 in his career at LSU. He's had at least, he's got 17 home runs. He needs to hit one more. And he'll have at least 18 home runs in every year in his career. The heart and soul of that team, if you look at it from that perspective, I think that's ultimately one reason he can get it. So if you ask me, out of those two, I go Dylan Cruz.
Curious if Skenes and Cruz would split the vote, and that might help Caglione.
That's another thing.
I think that's a concern. But
yes.
I'll make the case for Skenes here. I mean, could LSU be where they are right now without Dylan Cruz? Unlikely, but I think it's more likely than without Paul Skenes.
That's fair.
And I think, look, MVP, whatever you want to characterize these awards, that's up to them. Heisman goes to best quarterback now. So,
pretty much.
It's complicated, but Paul Skenes is just lapping the field in a lot of areas. ERA second in the nation. Rhett Lauder, he puts him way behind. Strikeouts. What can you say about Paul Skenes that hasn't been said? There's a reason he's top 5 pick projected, but I think there's a bit of an LSU bias. I think if you're a fan, you probably want Cruz because he's been here longer, and you feel like he deserves those honors. But if you look at the body of work, I'll just make the case for Skenes. I'll be happy with either one, and frankly, Caglione would be very deserving as well.
He would be. I mean, I'm very interested to see how Florida handles him next year as a junior, because you want to just have him 2A guy, or do you want him to be your front of the rotation? Because you're losing Sproat, you're losing Waldrop. Like, do you want him to be your front of the line Friday night ace? And if you do you see them go a similar route that LSU did with Paul Skenes? Because the kid can throw 98 miles an hour from the left side. That's freakish at this level of baseball. That those guys normally don't make it here. But he's also got 31 homers and hits for average too. So it's going to be a tough decision for Kevin O'Sullivan. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. As I said, Weatherholt deserved it too. Wyatt Langford, but I can't argue with any of the three that they picked. Like, that's always the thing with All-American teams. Like, it's like, how'd this guy get left off? Okay, well, who are you going to take out? Well, I'm not going to take anyone else out because they all deserve it too. Just put a few more guys in there. Like I said too, Skenes has won 2 National Player of the Year's award. Would it really be surprising if he won a third? Not to me. Selfishly, I want to see it. I want to see one of those guys get it, because it's very, for a section of the LSU fan base, it's one of the only things you haven't seen in person happen. Plenty of people saw Ben McDonald win the Golden Spikes in 1989. I didn't. Right? That's not something I wasn't born yet. I didn't see that. It's very reminiscent of Joe Burrow winning the Heisman Trophy, where that was one of the last things that the fan base didn't see. And it was greater for that because more of the fan base, wasn't alive in 1959 for Billy Cannon. But there's a section of the fan base for LSU baseball that's seen them win national titles, seen them win the SEC, seen them go to Omaha. The one thing they haven't seen is a Golden Spikes Award winner, and I think it'd be really, really cool. And Aaron Nola should have won it in 2013. He was the best player in college baseball. A.J. Reed was great, but Nola should have won it then. Bregman in 15, okay. You saw Bregman win a Brooks Wallace Award as a freshman. So you've had guys come so close since Ben and just not get over the hump. You got to like your chances this year if you're LSU. I'm trying to think if I had one more baseball thing to squeeze into that segment before, and I cannot remember, so we're going to grab a break. And we're going to come back, and we're going to switch the conversation back to football. Talk some New Orleans Saints minicamp. They're wrapping up minicamp today out in Metairie. We'll kind of recap it, look forward to our training camp of the season in the next segment here on Live at Lunch.
Live at Lunch.
Big Mike's in Denham Springs. You want to watch the games this weekend and catch a little live music? Well, they are your spot. Friday night, High Water Band, and on Saturday, Titanium Rain at 8 o'clock. That's going to be right as LSU's getting into the later innings. The 40 TVs in Big Mike's. And a great atmosphere. You'll have all day to prepare for LSU and Tennessee. You want your private get-togethers at Big Mike's, multiple-size party rooms are available. They do catering off-site. And you know what? That happy hour goes from 3 to 7 Monday through Friday, but it also starts at 11 a.m. on Sunday and continues all day. Denham Springs proud with the Denham Springs Hall of Fame right in the lobby. And, of course, you've seen them featured on Bar Rescue. Great food, great atmosphere. Big Mike's on Aspen and Denham Springs were kind of a big deal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Santa Griff, our Omaha home for the College World Series is the Ameristar Casino and Hotel in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just minutes away from downtown Omaha. Enjoy the only casino buffet in the area and a full sports book. Eat, watch, and bet at the Ameristar Casino and Hotel.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Shout out to Leah Van of The Advocate with the Big J journalism here that everybody's interested in. The Rocco's Jello Shot Challenge is underway. LSU currently trailing Florida. Florida leading 15 Jello shots already for the Florida Gators. LSU's at 4. They did raise the price. They were $4.50 a shot last year, now $5. And that's ridiculous. I'm not paying you $5 for a Jello shot. It's a Jello shot. I can make them in my kitchen. I'm not like, no, stop that.
Wait, so they raised it from $4 to $4.50?
No, from $4.50 to $5.
Well, see, doesn't that give Florida the advantage? They don't have any state income tax, so their fans got extra spending money.
Shots fired.
Taylor is the mind is firing at 300% right now for Taylor Sharp.
They lose those quarters in the jorts, don't they? Too.
They do. They do lose quarters in the jorts.
Hard to find those.
That's true too. Yeah, $5 the Jello shot. Like I love the challenge. It's great. Sober me is not paying you $5 for a Jello shot. You let me get in there and get going a little bit, then probably. But it better be the best Jello shot I've ever had. So LSU, 3rd place right now. Tennessee's got 6. Tiger fans, y'all talked a lot of noise about this to be in 3rd place already. I'm trying to fire y'all up. Get to Omaha. Let's win this Jello shot thing, all right? Win the Jello shot and the national championship. Florida in the lead. Can't let the Florida Gators win. Don't let Stanford win this before Florida. Florida winning anything makes my skin crawl. Okay. We were supposed to talk Saints minicamp here, maybe some Pels rumors in this segment. So let's do that. Saints minicamp, it wraps up today. Final day of the 3-day minicamp. Out of this so far, I have heard 2 names. Well, if you throw OTAs in it, the voluntary portion last week in as well. I've heard 2 names the most. Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. And I think that is incredibly, incredibly encouraging. Because obviously Shaheed's got the groin right now, hasn't participated in minicamp, but was the star of OTAs. And Chris Olave, whether it was the 65-yard touchdown reception in team drills yesterday over Lante Taylor or the one-handed grab he made a couple days ago, he's been incredible. I'm wondering how much of that can be attributed to Derek Carr's presence now in the Saints locker room and the Saints backfield under center, as opposed to Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston last year, or how much it is Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed taking the next step that you want to see them do year 1 to year 2 in the NFL.
Yeah, you hope Shaheed can keep it going, right? It almost seemed like last year might have been a little faux, right? I mean, it's a small sample size
for sure.
So to hear this out of camp is very reassuring. You want him to stay healthy, get as much time as they can. Shaheed's, dealing with his injury. Olave, it's being reported, Rod Walker of NOLA.com dealing with some Achilles inflammation, so he's missing practice today. But look, any minor injury, Cam Jordan sitting out today, you take a very cautious step with these injuries. I totally agree with you. The receivers, you want to watch that room very closely in camp, and Olave and Shaheed stepping up. I think that's the biggest news of all this. Dealing with the injury, sure, but when he's producing at a high level, that would make this receiver room just so much more dynamic. When you have him as a 3rd receiver, hopefully Michael Thomas would stay healthy. That just could really take the top off of this offense under Derek Carr.
Yeah, and Chris Olave was talking about it yesterday, or I should say Tuesday, in his media availability, and he made an interesting point that all 3 of those guys, himself, Michael Thomas, and Rashid Shaheed, they're 3 different styles. I mean, you could have 3 different styles of receiver in that offense that just makes you even more versatile there. And receiver was an interesting position last year because, and that's, Max, you tell me if you agree with this. I look at the Saints offseason this year, and I see a lot of parallels to last year. All the right things are being said. You got the excitement of Michael Thomas making a return from injury. What can he be for you, just like last year? Shaheed's kind of in that Jarvis Landry role that was last year. Obviously, Landry, you got him free agency. Rashid was, he was on the team last year, but it's, man, can he be a great number 3 for you? You feel good. You got Olave in the draft, Landry, Thomas. This year it's Olave, Shaheed, Thomas. Jameis, is he ready to really take that next step? Man, he looked great before he tore the ACL. Is he ready to take that next step? Derek Carr's coming in. He's going to be really good. The parallels run that you feel great about the offensive line, right? The parallels are running very similar. And offensively, for the New Orleans Saints last year, it wasn't great. There were injuries. I hear you. Thomas, Landry. I mean, you had Keith Kirkwood out there playing receiver. He was all right off the practice squad into a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jameis gets hurt again. Andy Dalton is what he is. I understand that. But at times last year, Pete Carmichael's play calling was a circus. Like, it wasn't great. So the way I look at it is you're on the parallel again. 2 off seasons running right next to each other. All the right things are being said. All the hype is there. On paper, you have a chance to be really, really good. But because of what happened last year, it needs to happen almost immediately. Like week 1 against the Tennessee Titans, that offense needs to go off.
You didn't bring Derek Carr in to ease his way in through 8 weeks of the season, right? So, I was even a bit critical. I think, there's split opinions on Derek Carr coming in, but he should bring stability, and he should bring, a veteran presence to the offense that Jameis Winston you hoped would give you. Just wasn't able to stay on the field last year, and you had to move on Andy Dalton, who was a much lesser veteran player. I think the optimism this year for the Saints, to me, stems solely on the schedule. I mean, it's so favorable in the division where last year you had Tampa Bay to still deal with, right? Can Tampa drop off? Is Tom Brady still the same? And this year, you're almost looking elsewhere rather than looking in-house. And I think that's a bit concerning. Like you said, there are a lot of parallels when you look in-house. It's just more out-of-house that makes it seem a little bit more favorable for the Saints this season.
I agree. I look at the Saints and I look at them on paper and I say they can absolutely outperform expectations for them. Will they? I don't know. I'm inclined to say no because I just don't really believe in the coaching staff that much. But on paper, this team with that schedule, like you said, could easily win 10, 11 games. When I think most people have them 8, 9 wins, right? In a bad division. I could see them do 10 or 11. I just don't know if I believe in the staff enough. I don't believe in the staff enough.
I'm eyeing the pass rush, too. It was just not good enough. Unacceptable last year, considering what this defense had become. It's getting older. I get that. You've got free agency to deal with that. You had the draft. Like, that's where you have to develop as well this summer.
And I thought they did well in the draft. Like, I think we all like Isaiah Foskey, right? I mean, I think people feel good. Like, can he be that next guy? You got to get something out of Peyton Turner, too, though, man. I mean, you have to get something out of Peyton Turner. And Cam Jordan, he's going to produce. I mean, we've been dealing with the narrative is Cam done for how many years now, and he just still goes out there and get double-digit sacks. Like, he's a freak. He's one of the best to ever do it. So, I'm with you there. Yeah, Brian Brzee, I think everybody likes that pickup as well. But, yeah, the pass rush, the defensive line's got to be better. They got to be better in close games too, man. The close game narrative for the Saints last year, you look at Cincinnati. That's one that immediately comes to mind where you could have closed that one out. And Tampa Bay. Oh, God.
Coaching.
Mark Ingram. Go get the first down, Mark Ingram. Oh, you win the division. You win the division, and you're in the playoffs. If he goes one more yard and then steps out of bounds. But I don't know. I'm hoping we're not in for more of that kind of heartbreak.
Speaking of heartbreak, what about the Pelicans? We got Zion here. A lot of rumors swirling around. And the NBA draft is around the corner. So there's a reason for these rumors. There's a method to this madness. You could certainly see a case where Charlotte is putting this out there on purpose to try to inflate what they can get out of that second overall pick. I don't really believe the rumors that they would go with Brandon Miller over Scoot Henderson. Scoot Henderson, to me, is clearly the second best prospect in this class. But is it worth moving on from Zion? Because we're hearing more than just the Charlotte rumors. Now you're hearing Houston would be interested in a trade there. Is it time to get rid of the Zion experiment? Because, frankly, I think much of the front office, much of the coaching staff, and some of the fan base, I would certainly be someone who, from the outside looking in, would almost prefer Brandon Ingram stay in this because you're going to have to give more away with Brandon Ingram, more than likely. I think Zion Williamson, you can sort of justify a little bit more of a one-on-one trade for Scoot Henderson.
Yeah, I think my main thing with that is if you're going to trade Zion Williamson, you better be sure that Scoot Henderson is that guy. Like, he better be him because it's a small sample size, but when we've seen Zion be Zion, he's been him. Like, he is the freak talent. He can take over a game. He's awesome. So if you're going to do that, And I understand all the criticism, and I get it, whether it's the off-the-court issues that have just popped up, whether it's the not being able to stay healthy, the butting heads with the training staff that they're changing, by the way. So that's why this is kind of also odd, too. Like, they're changing the training staff. Mario, you tell me, that's because of Zion Williamson, right? I mean, like that. So to trade him now would be interesting. If you're going to do that, and teams should absolutely be interested, but if you're going to do that, you better be sure that Scoot Henderson is that dude.
Yeah, imagine how awful they'd feel if they do trade Zion, he gets healthy, and a player this talented that at least contractually wanted to be in New Orleans fulfills his potential outside the city. Like, that's a big risk, too, and that's why I agree with y'all. Ultimately, I do not think he's going to be traded.
I don't think he is either. Max, Roosters Men Grooming?
Yes, Roosters Men's Grooming Center. Remind you, they will be presenting the show this evening, 6 to 8 p.m. from the Barstool Sportsbook at the Ameristar Casino and Hotel. Old Perkins and Highland by Blue Bayou, Roosters Men's Grooming Center. Great spot. And don't forget, if you haven't gotten anything for Father's Day, for your husband, your father, your grandfather, buy $100, get an additional $25 off. Great gift idea there at Roosters Men's Grooming Center. We'll be back right after this. Wrap up the show. This is Live at Lunch on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
All right, let's say ah.
Hey, it's Hunt. Join me for a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Chat with Joe Healy of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Ryan Shemp, former Tiger, will jump aboard, and we'll preview the other side of the College World Series bracket. Hunt Palmer Show, 1 to 3 weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jello shots are more expensive because proceeds go to charity this year. I'm all for it now. Max, U.S. Open update.
Yeah, Jacob Solomon leads the way, 4 under through 15 holes. That's a U.S. Open qualifier in the mix. So a bunch tied for second, though. Ricky Fowler, 3 under through 9 holes. Max Homa is right behind it, 2 under. Xander Schauffele as well, 3 under through 8. So tight contest. Haven't gotten to watch any of it just yet on the Peacock, but maybe I'll get to go home. Yet another streaming service that you have to pay for.
Absolutely.
Which I do because of the Premier League, so they'll steal my money.
There we go. They'll steal my money. All right, well, that's just about going to wrap us up here on Live at Lunch. Hey, the guys, Hanny and Ott, they will be back tonight. Special edition in the old game time slot. Live at Lunch dinner edition. They're going to be at the Barstool Sportsbook at Ameristar Casino Hotel. It's brought to you by Roosters Men's Grooming from 6 to 8 p.m. So right here on ESPN Baton Rouge, 6 to 8 p.m., special edition Live at Lunch, or you can go see the guys at the Ameristar Casino, the Barstool Sportsbook. It's in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just outside of downtown Omaha, so not a far trek. They'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Barrett's Barleycorn is going to host the guys, presented by Six Rings Baseball Academy in Covington. So normal slot for Friday's show, and then Saturday. Saturday's the big one. They're going to lead you right up to first pitch, 3 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. a pregame show for LSU Tennessee, Eagle 98.1, and ESPN Baton Rouge. Check out the guys there. Go see them as well. They're going to be in Omaha as long as the Tigers are. That's going to wrap us up. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Taylor. Max, it was fun. I enjoyed this. We'll have to do it again.
Thank you, fellas.
For the guys. Live at Lunch. Hey, Hunt is next.
Live at Lunch.